Hello, I'm El Lunchador, and this is my partner.
I'm Big George.
And we are the North South Connection, and we have a very exciting episode. I'm not going to wear this all the time because I can't breathe, but I figured it was appropriate. Tonight, we are talking in honor of Cinco de Mayo about Mexican wrestling and the top five WCW Luchadors, which is a huge, which is a very, a topic close to your heart because you're such a big WCW fan, as was I. But I think to start, before we get going, I'm just going to do some social media. But you had mentioned you want to talk off the top about one specific Mexican wrestler, and I think it's appropriate.
So this one specific Mexican wrestler, we wanted to keep him out of the top five due to the fact that, some people you're gonna put at number one regardless. That's kind of why we made these lists. It's not necessarily to highlight the number ones in your heart, but the top five in the business at that particular craft. Now, of course, Mexican wrestling has taken a particular leap in certain aspects, and some are due to certain people. You have Eddie, who is some of your top fives, some of your legends and number ones. Like some people actually look at Eddie as like one of the best wrestlers ever. And I don't even argue with
I
that.
know somebody who does.
I
We
know
both
somebody
do.
personally, yeah. So, we can't argue with that because it's a very, very valid opinion. But at the same time, we kind of look at the aspect of, Eddie has changed the game so much. We have to kind of leave him off the list because he is Mount Rushmore worthy in some aspects.
Yeah, I wanted to leave Eddie and Ray off this list because not only I think do we, I mean, focus on. I told him he's got to tune into this one. Not only do we focus on like creating his top five, but I think I like you and I both like to highlight guys who may or may not like otherwise get highlighted, which the WC mid card episode's coming up. And this
Hmm.
is one too. And I think like Eddie and Ray, everybody knows when you talk about Lucha Libre, there's probably nobody any better than those two guys. But like I think we wanted to focus on some of the other folks. But Eddie was a machine, man. Just an absolute machine.
Absolutely.
Like just a machine. And I loved him when he got into WWE and got the and he got his run. He got to be a bit of a character, right? The Latino Heat gimmick kind of was just him with the
Hmm.
volume turned up, and it was awesome. It was just so good. But in the ring, I mean, you watch him in the ring. Very few were better. Very few were better, and he was kind of. It's so funny with the Guerreros because Jim Cornette's called them the Mexican Armstrong fan, which is
Yeah.
a very very apt description. Because like Chavo was really good. I think he was the first guy to do a moonsault. I think he did it before Muda did. Hector was good. Mondo was pretty good.
Good.
Mondo
Yeah.
was good. Eddie was, Eddie and Chavo, probably maybe on this top five, was very underrated. Like Chavo, you know, Chavo was there. I don't think he was ever he was never Eddie, of course, but I think he was very, very good.
I
And
think
and
Chavo
apparently Gory, their father was great. And like you just look at that family, and they just produced great wrestlers. And but Eddie was kind of he was the best of the best. Like he was kind of like in terms of like Brad Armstrong of the Armstrong family was the best in terms of in ring. Road Dogg had the personality, but Eddie had both.
hmm I think when you kind of take Eddie and you look at how much he's done over the business, like he's changed his persona multiple times. He had the China and Eddie, like you were saying, the Latino Heat gig. Then he kind of went into, his own version of Eddie Guerrero. Like after all that, cutting the hair, um, just kind of making, matches a little bit more personal. I think he had an angle that nobody else could actually use, and he used it to his advantage. I know people who used their angles that they had in their life, and they kind of brought it to the ring, and it kind of made them spin out of control. But Eddie knew what his vices were, and I think he used that in the ring to kind of help him propel himself a little bit more. Yeah, I had these issues, but I'm better than that, and that kind of was a little bit of his overcoming too. So it kind of fed into his, his positivity and his lie, cheating, steal mantra that he kind of led with too. So love it.
I,
You gotta love it.
I loved Eddie too because he was great in both roles. He was great babyface, he's great as a heel. I mean, he could play both sides very, very well. Like you can go back and look at guys who talked about Eddie and like Eddie sucks, but then 2 years later they're cheering him. Like
Right.
he had that ability. Like, and I put it like this, and it's kind of appropriate because he was Piper-esque in that Roddy Piper could make you laugh 1 minute and make you want to kill him the next. And Eddie could do that. And like he
Yes.
wasn't the promo Piper was. And it's ironic because Piper feuded with Chavo in Chavo Sr. in Los Angeles. And then hilarious, he's like, it was a Hispanic TV. So he went on and he had a Conqueror of the Guerreros on his, Piper was a heat-seeking missile. And he went on and he said, no, I'm sorry, I'm going to play the Mexican national anthem on the bagpipes. He comes out next week and he's like, here it is, Mexican national anthem. He's like, La Cucaracha, La Cucaracha. And it's just like, so it's ironic I mentioned Piper, but Eddie did have that ability to, he was a chameleon. Anything you want him to do,
right.
He could do. And I think, and just such a good wrestler, And it's a shame we never got that Shawn Michaels match with Eddie.
Well, I mean,
it's just a shame.
A lot of matches. It's a lot of matches that could have happened that probably we got shorted of. But yeah, you kind of have to chalk it up to what history has actually done and what we actually look at. But I think Eddie left us with a bunch of classics that we can remember forever. So it's never the idea of him not being here. I think we have to appreciate him while we had him, just kind of like we had, like you say, Owen or anybody else that we've lost over the time that we've been wrestling fans. So, paying homage to Eddie is an easy tribute today because, of course, it is Cinco de Mayo, even though
it is margaritas. One margarita.
I mean, this man here is about to margarita himself out. I'm staying away from the juice today, folks. I'm okay. My Saturday was for all that, so neither here nor there. And
interesting, my Eddie Guerrero. So I went to in November the day he died. I went to the Bills game to watch the Chiefs play, and the Chiefs got their ass whooped. Like Larry Johnson ran for like 190 yards, but the Chiefs couldn't score nothing. As I like to say, they couldn't score like me in grade 9. But I came home and I was completely like hungover. I felt horrible. My wife woke me up. Was like, Eddie Guerrero died today. It's like just a double kick in the balls.
Ironically, Eddie Guerrero passed on my birthday, and that's the wildest thing in the world.
Oh no!
Yeah, November 13th. I was just like, it was 05, and I'm like, okay, birthday, and then Eddie Guerrero passes. I'm like, this is not how this is supposed to start.
Yeah.
And things like that kind of hit hard from the jump because, of course, it happened that morning. So it was an all-day thing. And then the Chiefs lost also. So, like getting kicked in the teeth twice.
I almost got killed in Buffalo. The first thing they did, I didn't even get out of the car, and I was in Buffalo, and I was in the car, and I was decked out in Chiefs gear. And one of the guys said, "Fuck you, Kansas City," and I didn't even got out of the car yet. It's like, oh, this could be a long ass day.
Yeah.
But Eddie, but I love Eddie, and this is really kind of our tribute to Mexican wrestling, which is such a huge history and has become such a huge part of the business. The thing about Eddie was we didn't get, we had a great tribute. WWE did a great tribute. The Eddie Guerrero tribute was phenomenal. And we didn't get Eddie and Shawn Michaels, but we got Rey Mysterio and Shawn Michaels, which was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like Mexican wrestling, Rey's another one. And my dad loved Rey Mysterio. My dad, he did he got me into wrestling. Rey was always one of those guys. He loved him. He's like, I can't believe the stuff he does. The thing about Rey was and I think he really got small guys over to a different level. I think like Shawn Michaels was considered small, but he's like 6'1".
Right.
Like Ray's like 5'7", but he's larger than life. Like his personality. I hated when they took away the the mask was the worst. One of the worst things WCW ever did. I like Eric Bischoff, but that was bad. Just from a business perspective, like sell more masks. But like him in the mask when he's like he did, and the stuff he did, he was just boom, 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 boom. He did it so clean and so crisp, and it was so ridiculous. Like when he came out, like that's the thing. Like you remember the NWO, like Bash Beach '96, but that was like I think Ray wrestled on that card.
Yeah.
And he did, and that was like one of his first appearances, and it was like wow. And he and the guys we're going to talk about really did a great job at helping WCW. But he's a legend. Like he is the. They always say like it's a big man's business, but like he's the exception to the rule, and like he's one of he's one of those guys like Ray and Eddie, but like. I think Ray's one of those guys who doesn't get a lot of Mount Rushmore takes. But if somebody were to throw him on, I'd listen to it because he's had that kind of an impact. A lot of the guys in the business today modeled their game after Rey Mysterio. And I'll say this about WWE, and I know AEW is doing it well with the trios matches, and they're doing a really good job, I think, respecting the heritage of Lucha Libre. And I like that because it's a unique heritage. And I don't always like spots for the sake of spots, but and that's not always my thing, but I like the lucha guys, especially in WCW, because they all seem to have a different kind of personality.
Right.
So
right. I loved a lot of the guys. I think one of the guys we kind of said we weren't going to mention, but he's a great Mexican wrestler. Not necessarily considered a luchador, but Conan as well. He did a lot for the business as well. I think he was one of the ones that was one of my favorites as far as him having a different style of Mexican wrestling versus everybody else's. I think that was one of the things that was different for him because he was considered a Mexican big man because he was a lot bigger than everybody. Yeah. So it was just like a lot bigger than all the other guys, but he had a different moveset. He wasn't as high flying as everybody, but he was crafty. He was very slick. He was very, his moveset was a little bit different, but he could do it to everybody.
Clotheslines and
the rolling clothesline, the tequila sunrise, all the different things that he did. Like he was a submission, machine a little bit because if you kind of look at him, he always kind of played with the submissions with the arms and the legs. He was always tearing up your limbs. So he was really good as a Mexican wrestler, and he was a very good grappler. But he wasn't as high flying as most luchadors, so we kind of have to take him off of this a little bit. And then he wasn't really a masked luchador like most of these, people on the list are or have been at one point. So it's always kind of a little bit exception to the rule, but you always kind of highlight that this person was there. Just we're not going to take him off the table at all. We're just going to let you know that there are other guys who did some things too that need some notoriety at this point.
Yeah, two things on Conan. One, I thought that I wanted to highlight with this top five. These are the cruiserweight. Like a lot of those Mexican luchadors, like Liz Mark may be on the list. Who knows? He's a little bit heavier, but he still did some crazy stuff. The thing I love about Conan and my partner who does the wrestling with me, Tornado, who will come on, who's the best wrestler nobody's ever heard of. And he mentioned it. The one thing I love about Conan is he gives back. Like he's the guy who got Rey Mysterio in WCW. He got all these guys in. He never had a problem with helping other dudes. And that's what I love about Conan. Like, I mean, is that he always was like all the guys like that we know of that we're going to talk about. It was him that was the conduit, and he was a huge star in Mexico. Like they called him at one time. He was the Mexican Hulk Hogan, and like you could see why, because like if you look at Conan, especially younger, when he was like younger and jacked and like he was handsome, and like okay, that makes sense. But one of the events that I'm pretty sure Biggie Shamrock. I don't know if he's listening to this, but he's in the chat. Will agree with me. A great pay-per-view to watch. I don't know where we can find it. I think might be able to get on YouTube. Is When Worlds Collide 1994. It's the AAA. WCW helped them produce it, but Mike Tenay and Chris Cruz did the announcing. It was great. It was Los Gringos Locos, Eddie Guerrero and Art Barr, were there. And like, that was where you saw Ray and Luis Piccoli, I know, was on there, like a ton of guys. And I think the main event was It was Conan, I think, against somebody. I have to watch it again. It was a great pay per view. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's really really good. So
I know there's a lot of different Mexican promotions that don't get them highlighted enough. That
yeah,
have a lot of great wrestlers as well. We won't really talk about a whole lot of those.
yeah.
Um, because if we did that, we'll be here until 4 o'clock tomorrow. But um, there's a lot of different things that you kind of have to kind of factor into this particular list. Um, we can get
Mhm.
it going at any point as far as who starts off this top five, because
All right.
it's got to be a number one to this. But I want to start at the
Okay.
bottom.
Yeah. No. Here. Well, we'll do it how we do it. We'll start. You'll go. This is your topic. This is your topic. No, actually, this was my topic.
It's
But we'll let.
you flipped it a little bit. You flipped it a little bit.
Yeah, we flipped it. It was supposed to be WCW mid carders, which we will get to. And before we go, I think we need to we're just so everyone knows we appreciate all the support we're getting. Like people are actually mentioning stuff to us. They're giving us a ton of ideas, and
Absolutely.
we're doing our best to do it on social media. I mean, the big man and I got busy lives, so we're doing our best. But I love that everyone's giving us suggestions. I know that we're coming up with a couple. What was the one? I know Country talked about the Rock episode. Kareem said top five heels, but top five heels, I think, coming up is going to be. I think we want to put it breaking into company and segments because it's way too broad, right? So
Right.
I think we need to talk about like heels from every era of the WWF, you know, NWA, ECW, like all those heels. Like ECW could be one, but all those guys need to be talked about. And because I really
Definitely.
think that's what our goal. That's what one of my goals is to highlight people that maybe some of the folks out there haven't heard of. Because like I'm old, I'm really old, and so and I've been watching wrestling probably longer than a lot of the people we communicate with about wrestling have been
Have been
alive,
alive. Yeah.
and they may not know some of these guys. And I think there's for me like somebody who's trying to get back into modern wrestling, I think it's important for you know the maybe some of the folks who haven't watched the older stuff to pay attention to it because there's a lot of really really great talent that nobody really remembers. It deserved a little love, and that's what I think we're trying to do. But I appreciate everyone who's reached out, anybody who watches this. You know, we're just doing it because we love it.
All the time that we put into this, all the time that you actually send us messages, we read every last one of them.
Jesus
We
Christ.
watch every video you guys send us. Anything that you have sent us and had a suggestion, we definitely took in consideration as far as something that we can
Yeah,
do down the line. So I think
yeah,
that the more interaction we get, the better the show will get. And I'm not even saying
yeah,
that because we need your help, but at the same
yeah,
time, we always want to talk about stuff that you guys want to hear. We have
yeah.
great extensive knowledge, and I always want to know exactly what you guys like. So today's a special episode. Like I say, we are dedicating this to the Luchadors, um, and I think that once you
Let's
kind
kick
of
it
get
off.
into
Let's go.
once you kind of get into this list, you're gonna see why we pick these people. So
Yeah.
I know who I pick. I know why
Who,
they're gonna be up
who,
there.
who's your first two? Who do we got? Who we kicking it off with?
I got to kick it off with Juventud Guerrero
Yeah,
and
that's
Psychosis.
yes.
And Psychosis. Both of these match wrestlers. When I was younger, funny enough, I used to get them both mixed up at a point. But that's
When they
because
both had the
like
masks on.
they both had masks on. I was like, both their masks have horns. And then Hoovy came out of his after a point. And I was just like, okay, so they're different. They're two different people. But both very talented, both very good wrestlers. Hoovy was one of my favorites simply because he was high flying and he won the cruiserweight belt once. I felt like he should have won it more times. I mean, because he was a great competitor as a luchador. I think one of the things that kind of pushed him was he was one of the more high flying, more risk taking luchadors that they had in WCW at the time.
Hmm.
So a lot of fun to watch. And
Did you like
Psychosis,
him? Did you
go
like
ahead.
who be better with or without the mask? Because he was a handsome guy too. Like he was.
I'm not saying in that remark, but as far as a wrestler, he was a
Well, it's
great.
true. Like,
I mean,
like
I guess. I mean, if you like, long flowing hair, that's what he
somebody
had,
does.
right? So,
Somebody does.
um,
I'm sure he had, as Gorilla Monsoon would say, I'm sure he didn't have a problem getting a date for Saturday night. Um,
no, no, no,
an
not at all.
underrated match, a match I loved of Hoobie's was the one he had at Spring Stampede '99 against Blitzkrieg.
Yes,
It was
yes.
a wild match, man. It was, yeah, Hoobie's definitely. I think
Hoovy
that's
with the
definitely,
mask. I think Hoovy with the mask. And that kind of answering that question, Hoovy with the mask was a little bit better
yeah,
to me.
it's like because he almost had two different careers. He
Yeah.
was really good. Like he was good. Like he just he had a really good style to him. He had good matches with Kidman. He had good matches
Hmm.
with anybody. Like he had some good matches. Like he had a good match with Conan. He and Conan went. Um, and he was over too. He was one of those guys who was super over. And like and just maybe WCW did. I think they did what they could with him, but apparently had some issues. But like I think that he probably never would have been a world champion just because I don't think that was his role. But the TV title, the US title, maybe I
Hmm.
think Hootie could have definitely played there. He was that good. Psychosis, I love Psychosis. He might be the most underrated guy on this list. Maybe in WCW, he was super good. And that leg drop he did, that's not easy. Like, and
No,
he hit it every time.
no, no. And he
And
performed it way too many times to say it was safe. I think, to be honest, there were some moves that should have been banned a long time ago. And I'm not gonna say it should have been banned, but it's definitely one of those that you can find like they're found to be one of those more dangerous moves because everybody couldn't do it. Everybody couldn't execute that properly at all. And so it kind of took a special kind of character to kind of, be able to pull off some of that stuff.
yeah, but those are definitely picks. Those definitely belong, both of them. So
So you got two that you got to bring to the table now
I got two.
because, of course, we got to
I got
see
two.
exactly how this is going to unfold. So come on with them. Come on. I don't want to have to
Okay.
veto nobody today, John. I really don't want to have to veto
No,
nobody today.
you won't beef with these. You won't beef with these. My two
Let's see it.
are Chavo Guerrero Jr. and the chairman of WCW, La Parca. La
Hey,
Parca's got me on the list. So
Lil Parker has
there's
to be up here. Has to be up here.
yeah. And Chavo,
Um,
even though he wasn't, he was obviously Mexican American, of course, but he was born in El Paso, and he
mhm.
didn't wear a mask. But I think he counts in here. I think he should. I think he counts. He's got
I'll
enough
take Chavo.
heritage in the lucha libre game that I think he's a luchador to me.
I'll take Chavo. I think
Yeah.
Chavo is a exception to the rule here because, of course, like you say, he has a very big lineage to
Yeah.
lucha libre history. So it's like you kind of have to throw him in because, of course, not even just on the scale of it's Chavo. No, he was a great wrestler. WCW
Very
Chavo, in my
underrated.
eyes, was
Very underrated.
extremely underrated. Like people didn't look at Chavo as being one of the top guys in the business, but as young as he was, how much he actually did for the luchadors at that time. Because for a certain period of time, if you notice, Chavo only wrestled some luchadors for a period. And everybody kind of just, worked each other whilst in
Yeah.
WCW. And I'm gonna tell you how hard that is. Not saying that I ever wrestled in WCW, which I never have, but I can tell you, like from the verbal struggles of everybody who actually left, to go to WWE. Some of the struggles were they weren't able to actually expand a little bit, so they wrestled themselves. They kind of
Chavo did though.
made themselves a little bit better. Now Chavo was able to kind of go over, yeah, like you say,
Yeah.
but
He and Eddie were great in
but
WWE.
everybody else didn't always, work out that
No.
way. And those guys didn't, I think, they didn't have a high school jock mentality to where they would not necessarily work with these guys because they weren't on their level.
No.
They worked with everybody and
Yeah.
anybody who would get in the ring with them, big, small, fat, skinny, or tall. So we we worked from sun up to sundown, and I think that's one of the things I respected about the
Yeah.
Chavos and the Eddies.
I I like Chavo. Like Chavo was good. Chavo was good. He could play the role when he did the haircut gimmick and the Pepe. I mean, he was working with he was trying. He was giving it. He was giving everything he had. He had a great match. One of the last WCW pay per views. It might have been the last one. I don't know if it was Sin or Greed or which one, but he worked Shane Helms,
Mm.
and it was good. It was so good. I mean, at WCW, like the last 3 months of WCW weren't the worst because they focused on other people. But that was a fantastic match. And Chavo had good matches with everybody. I loved the Tornado DDT he did. He was just really good, really solid. Held the cruiserweight belt a couple of times, and I think as a guy that, like we said, is kind of underrated, doesn't get the love maybe that he should. I mean,
I will
so
highlight this though. I didn't want to say nothing about this, but I think it's absolutely hilarious. The worst gimmick Chavo ever did.
Kerwin White.
Exactly. Being a
Uh,
white guy was the worst thing he ever did because not only it took away from who Chavo was, but it made him not just it made him not palatable for me. I
it's
was
just
like,
it, yeah,
I'm
but
ready for y'all to rinse this off me.
that's probably the company, and it's like I don't know if they ever really got that. Like when you talk about Chavo and his legacy and his heritage and like that plays, man. Like plus he's a good wrestler and he was a good interview.
Hmm.
I mean, like I think in WWE he should have been given far more. Like Chavo, I mean, he got the ECW belt for a bit, which was nice for him. I like that, but I mean, like I would have liked to have seen him compete for the IC belt, and he was good enough to do it. Like he deserved, I think. Like he had a successful career, so and now he does the stuntman, right? He's
Right.
the stunt coordinator for a couple of movies, and I think his uncle Mondo was also a stunt. He was a stunt man, and but like just a great wrestler with a great heritage and just a really really good wrestler that may not use his play. La Parca is fucking awesome. Like La
They
Parca
didn't call
was
him the
so
chairman for
good.
a reason. They didn't call him
Yeah,
the
I
chairman
mean,
for a
like
reason.
he was just my again, my partner Tornado loves La Parca. Sometimes comes out to his music on shows. But
That's
like,
dope.
yeah, I just like he was bigger, and the whole Skeletor gimmick, like he looked like He-Man. He looked like Skeletor from He-Man. And then when he did the
The,
dance,
the knees,
what
man. It was the knees.
one of my favorite matches in was one of my favorite pay per views was Sold Out '98. Sold Out '98 was like really good because it had Bret Hart and Ric Flair. It had Lex Luger, I think, and Macho Man. No, Nash and the Giant. But it had this opening 8-man lucha libre match. I
Yes.
forget the. Here's who I remember: El Dandy, Silver King, Hoovy, Chavo. I don't know if this is how the teams went. Aparca, Psychosis, Super Calo, and Lismark. Those were the 8 people, and it was it was what you expect. It was just chaos. But at the end, La Parca just cheered everybody, even his partners. I'm just like, I just love that guy, and he was good too. Like he was a good worker, and he was bigger that he could wrestle up a weight class sort of thing,
Yeah.
right? But he
Yeah.
still did some cool high flying stuff. And again, another underrated guy. WCW had good wrestlers. That's one of the things that they really had. Is these kind of guys. They were entertaining to watch. Like that's why I was watching Saturday night because you would get La Parca against Viano 4. It'd be amazing. Like and these guys were never going to get the big runs necessarily, but they were enjoyable to watch. They were really good. Like so, I got Chavo and La Parca on the list.
Okay. Okay. Um, that is actually a great too. You kind of, I think Laparca is almost a given. Like to be honest, like if you don't have Laparca at one of these on the top 2 to 3, without Eddie Guerrero and Rey
Yeah,
Mysterio,
right.
like he has to be top 2 or 3 because it's just like he did a lot and he was so entertaining. He was so
So
good. He
good.
was so good. Like going back and watching Laparca, he never spoke. That's the thing. He
No.
never spoke, and he had charisma like nobody could ever see.
Yeah,
He
he
could draw
just
a
was.
crowd. He could just be in him,
He's like a
and
wrestling mime almost. Like just
almost he
yeah,
never talked. He was always just like and you could kind of read his emotions through his body language, and it was so good. It was so good
yeah,
to be able to sell like that and never pick up a mic and say anything and then
yeah,
come out there with a chair, calling yourself the chairman, literally is just kind of the best thing in the world because everybody knows what you out there to do. you out here to work. So, and I loved every minute of actually, watching his matches. Even the matches that he lost in, he looked really good. I
He
remember they
looked
booked him
good.
against Goldberg, and you know how that was gonna go. But he made
Oh,
everything about that match.
he made Goldberg look like $1 million. Like
Exactly.
just
And he
oh,
he sold it properly. So I love that you picked the Parker in this.
of course I
Now
took Goldberg.
we got to round this thing out, and you
We
mentioned the name. You mentioned the name that I'm gonna have to end up rounding it out with, and I'm gonna go ahead and say Silver King for my last pick.
Silver King. Ah,
Silver King was a great worker. He really didn't get a lot of shine like everybody else did, but he wrestled in the business for years. He was in wrestling since like '85, from what I
point of
understand.
clarification. We may not have an argument here, but I have a question
Mhm.
because they were a tag team. My pick was going to be El Dandy. Can we include them together? Los
Los
Fabulosos.
Fabulosos, yes, we can take him together
So
because
we
that's
actually,
ironic as hell.
yeah,
Okay,
I had you said Silver King. I'm like, well, I'm gonna pick El Dandy, but why don't we just put them together? They were fucking awesome.
they were
Like when they
good.
came
They
out
were
and they had the
really
gimmick with
good.
Stacy Keibler with them, they didn't do that for a while, but that was amazing because they were really good together. Like they were a good tag team. Silver King was great. He was
Hmm.
they were both pudgier. Like they weren't like,
They
but
weren't the
like
smallest guys. They wasn't the smallest guys, but they
no,
actually held their
but
weight
they
well.
could bump. Like Danny, Danny was a great worker. Like he was never going to be a top star, but his fucking name's El Dandy. Like that's the best.
I mean, Silver
I
King
think
and
that
El Dandy, man.
Los Fabulosos. I love that name. I just missed that they didn't get a longer run. Like because WCW at that time they were smart. Like they had Yang and Dragon, Helms and Moore, Courageous and Noble maybe, and El Dandy and Silver King. Like that tag team division, like WWE was making a mint off their tag team division. WCW never made any money with it
They
except when
couldn't
Hall and
book
Nash
it.
had it.
They couldn't book it. That
No,
was the
but
problem. They
like
had the
they
talent.
had
They just
they had
couldn't book
great
it.
tag teams. Like Hoovy could have tagged with someone. You could have put like those guys in that division. It would have been rolling. And but they never did. They went, I don't know what they booked fucking Ahmed Johnson. Like that made no sense. Like that was the problem with WCW is they had the talent. Every one of us sitting at home who knew anything about wrestling was like, Jesus Christ, like why am I not seeing fucking Silver King and El Dandy or like Yang and Hayashi in like bigger matches? And why am I seeing Ahmed Johnson on pay per view in 2000? Like
The
that was
Ahmed
what my
Johnson that
problem was.
ate Ahmed Johnson and
Yeah,
walked
shit.
around like he was not Ahmed Johnson. That was that motherfucker. Because Ahmed
Yeah.
Johnson at that point had gotten huge. And not saying that he was just like so bad off that way he couldn't do screen time, but you knew he was gonna hurt somebody in that ring more than himself. And not because he just was like actually, wrestling him. He was well overweight, like for his size. And I think it was very unentertaining to watch somebody who
It
could do some of the
wasn't
moves he used to do. He
like
couldn't really do them anymore, and it was just like you got to know when to switch that up. But
my point is my whole point is though is that I think WCW overall missed the boat. Like they like Eric Bischoff will say, then he's like, I brought him in for the car crash, and that was great booking the way he kind of used them. I think they could have elevated some guys into different positions, maybe
mhm,
not top on the card, but like definitely upper card where they might be able to do some stuff with them. Like I mean, like again, the tag team division, they could have put them in like that would have been amazing. Like so I think it was awesome. Now, while we're doing that, we got to give some love to a couple other folks. I got a few more on the list. Lismark Jr. He's one of my favorites. I liked him because he was big, but he could still do like a twisting corkscrew stuff. You
he
know,
he did a lot of high flying stuff for a guy his size that normally
yes,
guys his size don't do. And the thing
yeah,
is, I felt like he performed them at a very good rate. kind of like Bam Bam Bigelow, just kind of doing stuff that you don't normally see big guys do, but they always kind of give you a great performance, even though they don't
Yeah.
win the match all the time. Like he was one of those where he was a great wrestler. He didn't win them all, but he always won a
He
good
didn't win
match.
many.
No, he didn't. Look, I'm being nice. Like I look, I've seen some of the matches. I'm like, damn, they did him dirty, but he performed great. And sometimes you kind of have to look at, like not only do they perform great, but are they good wrestlers in a loss too? Because sometimes you kind of look at it like if
And that's the
I knew
game,
you were
right?
going to lose, like,
Business.
yeah, you got to be able to sell it sometimes. Sometimes being able to sell, and some of these guys were better sellers than anybody else in the business, and they can also give you a great show without having to lose a
Yeah.
match or win a match. So it was just like sometimes you have to have a guy who can go in and do it all. And these are five guys I can honestly say would do it all,
Yeah.
or
So
six,
another
technically.
yeah, another guy. We're not no the top five is set. Just mention other guys. Super Colo.
Super Callow, yes,
Oh
yes.
yeah, like he was
One of
good.
the one of the like one of the things about him I like, he had a gimmick about him. He was really gimmicky.
Yeah,
Like he was so funny, but he was also such a good time in the ring. Very, 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 very skilled individual. Nothing about him says he can actually he wasn't a bad guy. Like he
I
could have
agree.
actually took a bigger role at one point, but he was really, really good with the
Good career.
gimmicky stuff.
Yeah. A couple the Vianos. Like
Viano number 4, Viano number 5.
five. I
Like,
love those guys.
like they were so small. They were so small, but yet big
But
at
they
the
were
same
like
time.
chubby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were like really small fat guys. It was just like, all right, like, but they were so good. They were little flyers too. They would come off the
Yeah.
ropes at you, just like anybody else would.
Yeah.
So I think that was one of the perks of having the Vianos around.
So this top five, let's put it into an actual top five.
Okay,
So
okay.
here's who we got, George. We got Juventud, Psychosis, La Parca, Chavo, and Los Fabulosos, El Dandy and Silver King.
So El Dandy and Silver King, I think, can round out 5.
I think that's a fair spot.
4, I'm giving to Hoovy.
Hoovy at four. Hmm.
The only reason I say Hoovy at 4 is because at 3 I got Chavo. 2 I got Psychosis, and 1 I got LaParca.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I agree. La Parca's got to be number one. La Parca's the
He,
best.
he was he was way too good out of the 5. Way too good. Like I'll turn on some LaParca in a minute. Like that dude was
Yeah,
great.
I love La Parca, and I like Psychosis too. Psychosis, I think Psychosis deserves to be there. All respect to Chavo, I love Chavo, but like I think at WCW, I really Chicago. I think Chavo maybe had the better career because his WWE career was pretty good. But
Hmm.
I think definitely Psychosis in WCW. I think he was one of the premier guys. And La Parca is such a is perfect at number one. He's so good, so good. He
Like
was just
he was everything that you needed a wrestler to be without a mic. Like if you didn't have a mic, you had to be
yeah, because he
LaParca.
never talked.
He never talked. Like he never cut a promo. He never had a moment where he took the mic and said anything crazy. Nothing. He never took the mic and did anything. He never walked out. It was always him and a chair, and that was it. Like I loved it. I love every
And
minute
that
of
cool theme music. Like he had really and he had cool theme music.
it. Hmm.
Like and people knew it when he came out. And he always got a big pop. Like he got a really big pop every time he came out. When they hit that music and out comes La Parca, that place, well, it went up because like
It did.
it, you know he was a great, yeah, he was the best. He was so good. But again, Psychosis, another guy who doesn't always get the love, like because I think he's kind of got like Ray is like here, and he was like with Ray, but kind of I don't think he gets as much love as he should because he was fantastic. Like he worked Rey Mysterio so much, and all like any of those matches were great, except the ECW pay per view. Good match, but he pulled the mask off, and they chanted, "Put it back on." And Joey Styles was trying to sell it. He was like, "But he has the show of respect." And Foley's like, "They're telling him to put the mask back on." I'm just like, he was yeah, man, like he did some cool stuff and a cool gimmick, right? Again, like he had the he had the horns and stuff. Like he had a cool looking gimmick, and I liked his size. Like he was like bigger. He was like maybe 5'11", 210, and he worked well with guys who were bigger because he could bump for him, and it was like, but like he was great. He was really good. So I like that list. I like this episode. I called an audible. Omaha today, drinking some margaritas, and I'm like, this one's gonna. But
Him and
I
his
am
margaritas going hard.
well. Hey, why not? The Leafs got kicked in the teeth. The Jays can't hit. It's like this is it.
I mean,
Might as well.
you never know. Look, I put it to you like this. I think a lot of the time that you have a good reason to celebrate, you should never have too much time in between the next time you celebrate. So if it's a
Yeah.
loss where you feel like you have to kind of just let all your sorrows out, I'm here with you, friend. I'm here with you.
No,
But
it's not that bad. I actually, for what it should be, I feel pretty good. I feel okay about it. They played hard. They lost on a weird bounce in a game 7 against the tough team. Fuck the Bruins. But like but they, you know, there's a lot of positives that came out of this off season. There's a lot of shit that's going to change, which is also cool because the off season is going to be way more entertaining than the playoffs could have been. So so I'm not that disappointed. The Jays, who knows? But this is fun. I love this. I love that we talk. Like, I love that we changed to this episode.
the audible was
Tonight,
actually smart. It was
because
actually
tonight I'm
smart.
gonna watch. After I watch Tom Brady get roasted, I'm gonna watch. I'm definitely gonna watch the some luchador stuff, like some, tonight because it was just so good.
I'm gonna watch
What's
some
he talking?
hardcore luchador stuff because I think there's not enough hardcore matches that are talked about in the luchador world. So I'm gonna definitely go ahead and dig some up and see who had some better hardcore matches as
Ray
luchadors.
and Ray and what's his name? Psychosis at
They had
ECW.
one
That
back
match,
in the day. Yes.
yeah, that was a good match. I'm gonna try and find that pay per view and find it. But no, I love talking about this. This was a great episode, and I think our tribute to Lucha Libre, which is a great art form. It really is. It's its own thing, and I love how they mixed it in today. Though, like, I mean, let's give love to like Santos Escobar and
Hmm.
Los Fantasma. I don't know the name.
Yes.
Yeah, those dudes are in shape. Those dudes are in shape. The whole LWO. I think WWE's doing a good job. I know he mentioned Ray Phoenix and Penta. Like those
Yes.
guys, yeah. Again, in AEW, they got some good guys coming up. I mean, I think AEW does a good job too with the trios thing. I like that they did the trios thing. They have a lot of useless titles, but the trios title was unique. Like bringing that element in, I'll give Tony Khan credit for that because like I think every wrestling show can always use lucha libre because it's such an influence on what we see today. So many of the guys who are in today, like not only the luchadors of today, but so many wrestlers. A guy like Ricochet, like he's got to be inspired by lucha libre.
Right.
So
Gotta be.
those kind of guys, and it's had such an impact, and it's you know like we talk. It's so funny because you always talk about like I like one time we got to do like states for top 5 wrestlers from the state. Like Texas is going to be a hard episode. The top 5 wrestlers from Texas, that's going to be tough. But like Mexico's always got great fighters. Like let's be honest, whether it's boxing, MMA, pro wrestling, Mexico's got great fighters because they got tough people, tough, like men and women in boxing and MMA, men and women in wrestling. Like Larry Merchant once said when he was talking about Julio Cesar Chavez, and he said he's a typical Mexican fighter. He'll take 4 to land 1, and then like that's it. With Lucha Libre, it's like yeah, they're gonna take some shots, but they're gonna give them too. And I think they have such good fighters, and they're such a fighting nation. And their wrestling history is just like it's a pillar. They're very, very good, and I'm glad we got to talk about it.
Absolutely. I don't think we'll have another big time where we will talk about a whole bunch of lucha libre stuff, but I'm glad
Yeah,
we took the time to talk about it today because today is going to be a very big thing as far as what we look forward to going forward. Because I'm more likely going to pay attention to more lucha libre wrestling because
yeah,
every time we bring light to something, I always kind of go big digging off into it a little bit more, even more than what we
yeah.
talked about. And then it's like you kind of have to appreciate everything where it all came from, the goods, the bads, and the uglies, because of course everything was a little bit different. Some stuff plays a major part in history. Some stuff
Hmm.
plays a major part in company shifts. And I think
Hmm.
the biggest company shift that we had was the Radicals leaving over with Eddie, and um, we kind of bring that up on all the shows, but that was a really big point, and people don't realize how big it was at times. And I think that's
Yeah.
one of the things, like a lucha libre wrestler going over right then and there, that lucha libre wrestler or that Mexican wrestler going over and being that big in that company was great. Like everything Eddie did, everything Ray did, everything um the LWO does and now the old LWO, all those members, like everybody who has done something in the Mexican wrestling heritage has always put another stepping stone in them being a greater, wrestling history, part of wrestling history. So I love it.
So here's what I want to do. I want to figure out right now, right here, um, categories. We need 4 categories to go on a poll. We're gonna put up a poll for our next episode.
Okay.
So what are the 4 categories? One I just wrote down because we just talked about them. I think it's worth talking about them again. Top 5 Eddie Guerrero matches.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Um
Hit me with a topic.
Top 5 Eddie Guerrero matches are good. I think it's some time that we should really start shedding light on top 5. Hear me out. Hear me out. I know you like the nations, but we got to talk about the top 5 black wrestlers.
Absolutely. Okay.
We got to talk about the top 5 black wrestlers. I feel like, not saying that we don't get enough
I
shine.
know who's going to be number 1.
No, you don't. No, you don't. It's going to be a power stroke. So here's the thing. If you didn't watch the show about the greatest tag teams, me and John had a little bit of dispute on
The
that. You'll see
factions.
there. No, yeah, the factions. I'm sorry. Um, he was arguing for the nation, and I'm sitting up here arguing for the Hart Foundation, right? And he brings up the
Ah,
irony of I'm being a black man arguing for Canada versus him being a white guy arguing for a black faction. It was actually really funny. But the thing about that is, I'm all for progressive information. I'm
I
always
know.
looking for what's better and who's better and why.
I
So,
think no, but I think that's a really good category and a really good too because WWE and I know countries mentioned this. There's so many good black wrestlers today,
yes,
like
yes,
so many, like and they're being allowed, I think, to hit where they to go as far as they want to go. And for a long time, like years back, like black wrestlers were kind of like there was a certain ceiling. I think we can argue.
oh,
But like
easy.
so many of these guys, Kofi and like Bobby Lashley and Jade and Bianca Belair is like doing
You know,
Million good
even
things all the time.
Biggie, who inspired me as far as the
Big
name of
E,
the
yeah.
show a little bit. Um, you know, Montez Ford
He
and Joe
inspired this
Dawkins.
podcast. I'd
Yes,
love to have Big E on. Like
that'd be
I know it's
amazing.
not. I love just because Bundy's not here, so. But I'd love to have Big E on. And maybe we'll try it. We'll try and raise it because I like that guy. I mean, I'm so disappointed. You know what I like about him? Just the way he looks. He looks like he's just big, and he's powerful. He's got that. He's super athletic. He's great personality, obviously, with the New Day.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
love that guy, and it's a shame that he. I hope he can get back, but top five black wrestlers. I want to do that episode too because, like, again, as a progressive person, um, I love I love talking about the history of black wrestlers in the business. I think it's important, and I think there's a lot of guys that we're going to talk about who don't get a lot of play. Like people talked about, they put Thunderbolt Patterson in the Hall of Fame. They're like, oh, you just put him because he's black. It's like if
Do
you
you know who
influence
Thunderbolt
Dusty.
Patterson was?
Yeah, no, I do. I'm like, if you influence Dusty Rhodes, like, guess what? You deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't give a fuck if you're black, white, or purple. Because Dusty Rhodes is one of the greatest promos that's ever walked the planet. Well, Dusty, is he in the? Can we include him in the top five black wrestlers?
You know, they already trying to throw Cody in there for some weird ass reason.
No,
I'm not
I'm
gonna do
kidding.
that.
But like,
I'm not gonna do
but again,
that.
like Thunderbolt Patterson was a guy who he didn't have a big national level, but he did have and so I think guys like that, and so yeah, I love that talk. So we need another one. So I'm gonna throw on top five heels for ECW.
We haven't done this episode yet.
Okay,
Top five managers.
top five managers, and I do. If top five managers, we have a guest. So on that show, I will have to work it out. If this is picked, we'll have to figure out the episode. But
Mm-hmm.
we have a gentleman. I've spoken about him on this show before. His name is Asher Benjamin. Ben McCulley's his name, but Asher Benjamin. I think he legally changed it to Asher Benjamin. I'm not sure. He's that crazy. But he's one of my good friends. But he was the guy who came. He works on the radio. He's a great radio announcer. Like, I can tell within 2 seconds from meeting anyone if they have charisma. Because all you have to do is talk to them in a regular conversation and you'll know. And from the moment I met that guy, and he was the one who thought, because like I'm doing now, touching my nose, that it was on cocaine. Um, but I was like, I don't know if he was ever going to make it as just a wrestler, but the moment I met him, I said to my partner, I called him meeting, I said, this guy's our next Bobby Heenan. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, but he could talk. He could talk a streak. And then we found out that he could actually bump. He's like the best bump taker. So there's nobody else I want more on that show because he is a manager. He gets so much heat. They were throwing like full Coke cans at him at one show. Just
The whole Coke can? Hell no.
yeah, and he was like, good fucking somebody's throwing a Coke can at me. It's like, you got that white heat, baby. But no, he's so he'll be a guest. He'll be a guest. So I will say, Ben, if you want the top five managers, you got to push it out there. But that I love those. So on the poll, we're gonna have top five Eddie Guerrero matches. I know which ones Kareem is gonna vote for. You
He's
know,
probably gonna make 4 profiles to vote for the same thing 4 times.
yeah, and I mean, come on. Of course, that's number one. What we do with The Rock? If he's on the list, I mean, yeah,
Watch for the show. Look, go to the poll, vote now. You can go ahead and put out whatever you want as far as the top 4 topics. Go ahead and vote. The poll will be up in about what I would say 30 minutes to an hour, probably, maybe not.
if you're
Um,
doing it, yeah, if you want to do the poll,
I can take some time to do the poll. I can definitely try to set it up.
okay.
That's not a problem. But at the same time, we want you to go out and pick one of the 4 topics. Um, ooh, Long day yesterday. It was bad. I ain't gonna lie.
Grand Prairie, Texas is undefeated.
Look, if you were there, you a time was had, ladies and gentlemen. A time was had. I had a good time with some good friends. So um definitely took a lot out of me, but I'm here today to do the show as usual. Um
Yeah. Oh, and sorry, we're gonna do a belt episode. Like that's gonna be like an in-person episode with my friend Cam.
Absolutely.
We just have to get together with Cam. Cam's got two kids just like me. His life is chaos. So, like every one of us. So we'll just have to figure it out with Cam. But he was here last night, and at least I had some comfort. But it was so Cam is coming on because Cam's a big Leaf fan too. Big, literally, and actually physically. Cam's huge. I love Cam. So Cam will do that. So we're gonna do that one. But those ones I want to vote. I love those episodes. So. All right,
This is
man.
gonna
Well,
be
that was a
good.
great one.
This is gonna be good. I appreciate everybody for coming out and watching as usual.
Yeah,
Kareem, one of my number one commenters. I'm not gonna lie. Kareem is here every week, just giving out great opinions, great wild takes. Shout
Kareem's
out
our
to
guy.
Kareem. But of course, like, share, and subscribe. Everybody who comes on each week and watches us, we do appreciate you every week as usual.
Every week.
Shout you guys out. Like I said, episode 100, we might got something for you, but we gotta get there first. So
Yeah.
let's see it.
Have a good one.
Peace.